And we start the same way that we finished last year with another win. Leicester City 4, Huddersfield 1. And all, again, pretty much, we'll get on some of the specific bits later on, but how do you think the game went overall?
I would sum up my expectations with a cannon blasting a ball into the Huddersfield goal. That's how it was. Good game. I think it. Don't know about you. I kind of expected the game to be in the first half, especially like quite lethargic and a bit scrappy, a bit sort of like had too much to drink on New Year's Eve and getting ready for it. I think surprisingly, in the end, the game was like way more entertaining than I thought it had any right to be. I think also it's kind of weird, like Huddersfield. We've done the double over them now, but I have to say, I think compared to a lot of the teams that we played, they've caused us quite a lot of problems over the two matches. You know, the big difference is they changed their managers. The first game was Neil Warnock in charge. This time it was Darren Moore. And you could see that their approach changed quite a lot. You'll probably get to that with your tactical setup. But, you know, what was interesting is early in the season, it was one of the first games we played, and Huddersfield dared to go man to man against us and sort of like take us on in our own game. Today they just kind of played 5-4-1, although it was kind of weird. We went 3-0 up and then they actually looked fantastic for a bit and really put a lot of efforts and stuff like that. Like, you know, this game could easily have ended up 6-2 or something like that, which is, I think, quite a good thing to see on New Year's Day, to be honest, because as I say, you normally expect these kind of like, you know, less exciting games.
Hangover games.
Boxing Day normally gives you bangers. Like there's that famous day where like one year in the 30s or something like 100 goals was scored in 12 Boxing Day matches, and there's like results like 10-1 and stuff like that. This one seems to be more just like you rotate everyone, you grind it out and move on to the next. But overall, actually quite a good performance. I think the game desperately needed that goal, but once the goal went in, it was a very interesting game and fun to talk about. So I enjoyed it, and yeah, happy new year to everyone who's watching. And yeah, it looks very good for us. And I think, you know, there was always still a bit of a concern that, like, you know, if you do a lot of rotation, can we still grind out the results? And look, we scored 4 goals, and honestly, we should have scored quite a few more than that. So that's got to be super encouraging. Callum Doyle came back on the pitch there at the end. Great to see him back. Wanya Marcel back and getting some appearances there. I think that's probably going to be a bit of a foreshadowing of what the next game is going to involve with the lineup. But yeah, let's start going through the game and the lineup. But I was quite impressed with us overall. I wouldn't say it was like vintage, but better quality than I thought we would be. And some people, I think, really impressed in this game.
Yeah, there was. Well, we're going to go through some of them in a second. I think just coming into what you were mentioning a little bit more as well. When we talk about Marcel and Callum Doyle, it's almost like we're rolling back to the beginning of the season in terms of the formation of people that were starting.
Yeah.
So when them players are coming on, things like James Justin, who wasn't starting as many games, Mavididi again, Fatal was coming off. So again, we'll get into some of those specific bits later on. But first, I just want to move into formation. Now, normally we see the 3-2-4-1 that we normally play. In this one, at times, we know the wingers like to hang out wide, but we changed the midfield duo. Again, I put Ricardo up there. We'll explain that in just a second. But we'll get on to some of the specific tactics around that in a bit. But are you surprised to see, for example, we'll get on the midfield. We'll get onto Ricardo in a second. But the likes of Cassidy, don't want to start on a negative note, but how do you think he did today?
I think let's bring up the sofa score rankings, because I think this will give us some more kind of pretense into what we're talking about. But just to go, yes, you've got the lineup bang on there. So Huddersfield, the change from Warnock took over against Darren Moore is he's been more willing to go 5-4-1 against some of the better teams in the division. So they played a block of 5 when they were defending. And so that's why, you know, Enzo, as we know, if they put 5 at the back, he'll put 6 up front. And that guy that goes forward is Ricardo. Actually, if you look at the rankings, you know, he's one of the better performers there. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see who you pick for your man in a match, but Ricardo could definitely be a strong contender for it. So he was moved up into it and had a fabulous game. So yeah, why did I ask you to bring these rankings up? Well, if you look at our team, the person who got the lowest rating was Cassidy, hence why I wanted to kind of bring him up. Few people were talking about him. Let's start with some positives. I think off the ball, he was still quite decent. He pressed a lot. He got stuck in. He had a lot of hard work rate, supported the press. So that side of the game, I think he did well. I think he tried to arrive in the box. Like I believe he actually got an assist today for Tom Cannon's first goal. I mean, it's one of those. It's not really an assist, but at the end of the day, if it was me, I would still be saying, well, you know, boss, you're asking me for those goals and assist contribution, and Eunice didn't get one, and I did. So, you know, give me my you know, potential for that. But Yeah, look, I think the thing with Castay compared to other people that we've got in the team is that he's played quite a lot more games than some other people. For example, Mark Albrighton came on in the end for 10 minutes, but he was much better in that 10 minutes than Castay's been probably all season. Or Eunice, I think, had an okay game. I think towards the end, he started getting quite good, actually, but was average overall, but hasn't had as many games. Yet he's shown a bit more. The thing with Castay as well is Castay is actually 1 year older than Fatawu. So, you know, and 1 year older than Callum Doyle. So the thing is that, like, you know, whilst I still think, you know, you can't, you know, be too negative on a young player breaking through, you know what I mean? He's not as far along in his development. Like, he strikes me as a player, like, believe it or not, Chelsea paid 15 million for him from Inter Milan. And I just think to myself, there's no way this guy's getting anywhere near the Chelsea first team. I think someone said it, maybe it was Luke or Mike or something like that. Like, their prediction is that he'll just end up being like a player that ends up at Udinese or something like that. As it stands, I would agree. I think the thing that concerns me a bit, like, his strength is definitely in terms of positioning. He likes to play like he has a natural tendency to drift towards the goal and find the space to, like, make a threat for himself. So that's really good. You know, that is something that that's the reason why he highlighted him and he chased him all summer, because he wanted these players under his system to be posing an attacking threat. Because when we play against them, we try and get 5 or 6 in the box. Like, look at Ricardo. He headed one in and he should have headed another goal in, and he had another chance. He actually could have ended up with a hat-trick today. So that's what he wants from players in the team, is we're going to make these chances, but for those chances to be worth something. You know, biggest difference between, let's say, Brendan ball and Enzo ball is that, like, in Enzo ball, when we attack, we commit the 5 forward into the box and we have the 5 at the back. Whereas, you know, although we had some great moments under Rodgers, we had a 9-0 win, don't forget, right? But there was still a lot more sideways action, and it was more like 3 or 4 in the box at any one time. So that's the good side of him. I think where he's bad though, Cassidy, is I feel that, like, firstly, his decision making is pretty poor. And that's not good for a midfielder, because do you know, like, when kids are playing football and you're looking at them and you're thinking, like, okay, what, you know, because you could be anything, right? You know, it's just your assets. What would you best be suited to? And someone who has, like, the ability to read the game, they always seem to be passing it to the right person at the right time, or they're aware that this guy's in space or that guy's in space. That's what, like, tends to be a tendency that you see in good midfielders. Like, Harry Winks is the master of it, for example. He's so good at doing that. And Castay's quite weak at that. Like, he gets the ball quite a few times and he picks the wrong option. And even worse, when he's had a bit of time on the ball as well. So it's not even like a snapshot. So that concerns me. His close control needs to improve a lot. He's a long way off, I think, any of the other midfielders. Like, I think it says a lot that Wilfred Ndidi, I believe, has got better close control than him. Now, to be fair, Wilfred Ndidi at one point had sort of clown shoes for a touch. And I think that's something that Brendan Rodgers doesn't get enough credit for, that especially in his first season with him, he did actually improve Ndidi quite a lot on the ball. Claude Puel to some extent too. So he became more than a destroyer. So Castay definitely needs to work on that. But it's a bit worrying for, like, a £15 million midfielder that they're technically not so good there. And yeah, I think it's just like what I was like, yeah, the awareness and short passing. I think that's something that, like, I still in that first half, he was giving it away a lot. And it's just a bit like, you know, that I think is the thing that really frustrates people. It's
he
like
gives it away, but
break
also he still slows down the play more than I want him to. When he gets the ball, if it's finding somebody like a Harry Winks position, and he comes in and you can see the ball. I'm not expecting him to be as good as Harry Winks, but the ball at times where he's lost the ball, Harry Winks got it and he's spreading it, and the pace immediately builds up. At times, he just seems like a little bit off the pace of everybody else in the team.
100%. Now, one thing I want to say that's important. So before this match started, I think what I was saying to a lot of my friends was that, look, I think this game could be quite painful to watch, because I think we're going to rotate heavily and we're going to lack the fluency. So if you remember the Sheffield Wednesday game, it could feel a lot like that. And I think we'll win because we're at home and we'll probably grind it out. But don't be surprised if overall it's like a really unimpressive display and you kind of feel like, well, that wasn't very entertaining to watch. And I feel like in the first half, that is kind of how it went. Some sort of poor passing. Like, the other thing I would say, like, to give some of the players credit, is that I could tell, for example, that one player received the ball, then another player would make the run. And, like, you know, the common one is like the 8 makes the run into the inside channel and they should expect the layoff, but the ball wouldn't go there. And there was a few times like that. And that's because you could tell that all of the players were unfamiliar with this personnel and their lineup to do it. Whereas we always say, for example, like the Fatawu to Ndidi combo is like, I feel they could play blindfolded right now. KDH and Mavadidi have improved a lot in that regards too. Ricardo and Winks, they know when to kind of release and stuff like that. So I think that is a little bit of a mitigating circumstance there as to, why it could be a bit like that. And it kind of brightened up. So yeah, like overall, I think Casadei was a meh performance, didn't quite even get to 7 there. What I'll say for all these players is I think that they still need a run in the team. So I'll be curious to see who he picks for the FA Cup. But I suspect that he will also play probably the 3 that came in today. I think he'll play Yunus, Casadei, and probably Cannon. Maybe he won't play Cannon for the whole game, although I think he should. And I think
there isn't really any
give
options, is there? If Vardy's not fit.
Yeah, well, then he'll have to, exactly, right? So in that case, he will play, But look, that could benefit all of them. I think that's what they need to do is I think they all need to get familiarity. I do keep saying to you, though, that the big thing with Casadei is that he has had a lot of starts. In fact, let me try and bring up his stats. But I think if I compare himself to, Yunus, he's had a lot more games. And so, he can't even use, like, he's played more than Dennis Pratt, for example. Fair play, Dennis Pratt has been injured. He might well have played more than Callum Doyle. So when you've had that many starts, at some point in time, you've got to start executing on it. And yeah, his level has been below what I've expected. So that's just the one thing there. But let's not be too negative. I think he'll probably start in the next couple of games as well. We can make more of it. But we should probably touch on it at the end of the show. But we have been linked with Fabio Carvalho, who's at Liverpool at the moment. Actually, he's on loan with Red Bull Leipzig. But the last time that basically his story is that he was in the championship that season where Fulham destroyed the championship and Mitrovic got 40 goals or something ridiculous like that. And Carvalho, I believe, won the Young Player of the Year that year. And it was so good that Liverpool bought him. Why have we been linked to a player like that? Yeah, no, it's something to think about. So that's could be there to go for you. But yeah, let's move on to the rest of the team.
I was going to say, just before we move on again, a couple of things. I'm with you. I think a couple of things. One, I was surprised that Kendrick would be holding. Come on, especially it's because I thought
he needs a rest, though. Surely, though. Potentially,
that's probably why I think Enzo works closely with the medical team and just goes, "Is he okay to play? Okay, let's play him." Harry Winks is a good example where he doesn't do a lot of. He does a lot of stuff, but he's fit to go every single game. With the likes of Ricardo was dropped out for this game, Hamza came for the last game, then Hamza came in, and there's a rotation. Just get some people's comments in. So I kind of summed it up. It was fine, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's
how many matches do you think he's played? By the way, this is quite an eye opener.
How many we played? 25 games in total. He's probably played 12
plus cup games. He's played in 20 games.
No, really?
Yeah. To be fair, he's only had 6 starts. Yunus has played 11 games with 4 starts. But that is my point. And looking at this here, Callum Doyle, how many matches has Callum Doyle played?
12.
8.
Interesting.
So
and he's a year older than Callum Doyle.
That's my point. He's actually played just 1 game less than Fatawu.
And he's got more international experience as well, with the likes of Fatawu and Callum Doyle haven't got that experience. So it's interesting to mention. And just before again, I think we'll get the good stuff on at the moment. We'll get some of the bright information at the moment. So mention Casadei. Again, apologies, my internet's lagging. It's just a little bit all over the place at the moment. I apologize. I'll try and sort it out.
It went out on the lash last night, did it?
Yeah, my internet did. But in terms of that, we'll come on to the other player, Yunus, for that position. So you mentioned he first started in quite a while as well, coming into that position. How did you find his performance today?
I think, going to his score, the score that he's been given, I believe, is 7.3. And I think that's fair. I think, to be honest, I felt in the first, maybe even up to 60 minutes, I was a bit disappointed. He had some good touches, but there were some times where I felt there was one time in the first half where he received the ball and he should have shot it, but instead he passed it. And I was like, go on, Yunus, come on, man. Get some confidence. I feel like he's a player that once he gets one, he could start finding his feet quite well. But the second half, I think he was quite a lot better, especially sort of like 60 minutes onwards, where he was drifting between the lines quite well. He was linking it up, and those. Things that I criticized Cassidy for, I feel you just see them being much better with Eunice. So, even overall, he hasn't, scored, he hasn't made an assist, but he found himself into good positions. He always progressed the ball. He's aware of what's going on. He picks a good option most of the time. So I think there's like a lot there to like. I mean, still, my overall opinion with him is that as of right now, I wouldn't sign him. It depends what the option is that we have with his deal. Like if he has to play 25 games, well, he's only played 11. So is he going to make that before the end of the season? We'll have to see. He could be one of those players that sort of towards the end of the season, we see never sort of plays again because, he's not going to be starring for us long term. But yeah, I think what he really needs is that he is a player that needs like 3 or 4 games in a row. And I think after that would be in a much better position to judge him. So I'm certain unless he gets injured, he'll start the next game and he may even start the game after that. I hope it is. Like, I think of the two, we jokingly say that Cassidy is Enzo Maresca's illegitimate son, but I think he needs to give Eunice a run out. He looks like much more potential. Well, what I will say that maybe of the two, and maybe why he's not getting picked so much, is because of his physical stature. I do notice that sometimes he gets pushed off the ball a bit, which is understandable. If you're like 5'8" compared to someone else who's taller, it's harder to do it, and you can lose the midfield duels. But overall, who put that comment? That was a really good comment where he just put Cassidy was fine, I guess. I would be better than that, and I would say Eunice was decent. But I wouldn't go as far as saying Eunice was good, if that makes sense. So if that's what we're going for the official beyond the 90 rating lexicon, we've got fine, we've got decent, we've got good, we've got great. I would give him decent. Maybe could even say good, but I think in a 4-goal win, he hasn't got a goal or an assist, so I wouldn't go that far. But I definitely give him a decent. I would like to see him again. And I think, do you know what I will say though? I think it was great that Cassidy, Eunice, and Cannon all got the full 90 minutes. I was thinking that even if it was just like 1-0 or even a draw, I think it was really important that they got those minutes today, that they have to be trusted to play. And like personally, I would even have taken a draw, right, if they would have got that, because now we're in a period where these players, they need to play. And it's unfair, even for as much as I've criticized Cassidy there, like these people, if you give them a run of 3 or 4 games, then afterwards, we can make judgment on it. Although I will say, someone texted me and says, is Cassidy the white Buba Samare? And that was a bit harsh, but I could see where he was coming from. I
kind of do, but also they played very different positions, and what their role in the team is very different as well. I think you mentioned a point where, like, I'm with you again. I think my internet's back now.
Much better now.
Sometimes it just happens after post match. You're disadvantaged of going live. But in terms of the way he played, again, I'm with you. I thought he didn't start off, but again, I don't think anybody in that first half really started off that great. It's a bit sloppy, I was confident though coming into the first half, because we've seen so many times that bang, second half we turn it on again.
Yeah.
And obviously we did for this. I missed the second goal, but we'll come into. So again, overall, that first half, there wasn't really anything to shout out about, apart from really that I think it was the first shot on target, which was actually Tom Cannon in the 40th minute or so. Really good play. And just the goal that considering it's his first start, he's the only striker. Today could have gone horribly wrong, because if he's getting it horribly wrong, the crowd might have got on his back, and there is nobody else off the bench. We're going to have to play on. I've listened to a few players when they go, they aren't confidence players. I don't know about Tom Cannon as much, but some players, when it's not going well for them, like, get me off, because I'd rather regroup and come back. But how do you think he took his first? We'll get on to some of his overall play in a second. But Tom Cannon's first goal, I think he took that really, really well.
Wow, this was an exciting appearance from him. Very exciting. We did say that what could happen when some of the players disappear for AFCON is there could be a player who emerges, and by the end of it, they can't be dropped. Don't want to say who that is right now, but it would definitely start with a performance like this. That was a great goal. Snapshot, instinctive, just first time, knew where it was, struck it true. I think someone said it best. They said it was like Harry Kane-esque, where he sort of scores a goal sort of like out of nothing. That's really, I would go as far as saying that so far this season, I can't think of a goal. Actually, Vardy scored one against Blackburn. Do you remember with his left foot where he just scored it and it was just like, that's just elite. That's just one of those things that like, there's a handful of players in this division that could score a goal like that. And Vardy's one of them. You know, just like first time out of nowhere. It's a really difficult strike. And he just made it like it was like, for him, it was just a Sunday, one of those things. So that was is that really what the XG was on that?
XG for that is 0.02. Well, again, it could have gone everywhere, anywhere. But I'm surprised it's that low.
Maybe not, because the amount of times that will go in is you know, really unlikely. So that was fantastic. But like, even if it didn't go in, I think the point is that it showed you that he literally hadn't had a sniff. I think you said that in our group chat. So he hadn't had a sniff of the ball at that time, and he was alert. He reacted to it first. It wasn't a good pass to him. It was, like I say, it came off Cassidy, but it came off him rather than it being like guided into him. I think that was half volley. He took it down and banged it in. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's good technique. And, you know, we were saying before we signed him that we looked at the highlights clips from him playing at Preston. And the thing that did stick out is that he had some great finishing. Because one of those that, like, you know, we got him from Everton, but Everton themselves have been struggling with strikers for quite a long time. You know, I know they got Calvert-Lewin, but he's been injured, you know, so it's a bit unusual that they would be so willing to sell. I mean, as it turns out, they've obviously got FFP problems, so maybe that's the reason why they were doing it. But it was a bit unusual. But I think anyone that can finish like that, that's exciting. And I would go as far as saying is we have seen that also in other games as well, where you can see he's got that striker's instinct of him, that he's willing to have a go. Like I remember, I think even in his first time that he came on, he had like a snapshot and it went wide, but it was kind of similar in that he just like, you know, didn't even have to think about it. He just did it instinctively. And it wasn't a million miles away. It kind of looked like something that like with a bit more practice could start hitting the target. And well, he's doing it already. So yeah, that was a great goal. The game really needed it. Because what was interesting is then after we got that, I felt then the next 5 minutes, actually, all of a sudden, we looked like a way better team. And all of the play was linking up. You could see people were confident because they probably knew. They were like, okay, this game's already won now. Like, you know, we've played this type of game. And normally how it ends up is the first half is a complete non-event. We're just like running around, tiring them out. Second half, as you say, we turn it up a bit. And then, you know, normally 60 to 70th minute, we get the first goal and then we get 2-3 and we get past it. But, you know, we should talk about his overall performance, but that was a great first goal, 100%.
Yeah, we might as well come into it because, again, we're there already. And overall, I thought he was, again, we had nothing to do. But then when he came up, when he had the opportunity, I think we bought him for about 7 million. Now, look at the specific.
Now, more, 8.5 it was.
So that's a lot of money specifically for the championship. And the fact that they've trusted Enzo to go, look, we've got 3 strikers at the club. Do you want another one? And it came out of absolutely nowhere. That was right on the deadline day.
Well, remember, we thought Patson was going, right? So
yeah, so we're looking for somebody to replace him. But even then, that position and what would really impressed me again, his link-up play, I don't think was quite there. But I'm not trying to judge him too much because it's his first start. He's not had that many opportunities. I thought I've watched the second half of, or towards the end when he came on against Cardiff, I thought he actually looked like he was growing into the game a little bit more, even though he had another 10 minutes. Here, I think today he stamped his mark on the game. And considering we've had issues with number 8s, we need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. He did that today, and not just once, but twice. First of all, for that goal, and the second goal, I think, is arguably even more impressive than the first.
I agree. That's what I was going to say. So the first one's like a snapshot, and you hit it right. That's just like good tech as if you've got it. But the second one was so impressive from a number of ways. So firstly, he did the classic dip in and dip out. So Patson Daka, to give him his dues, has also been really good at this. But the idea is, you know, you come deep to pull the defender with you, then you turn and the ball is played over into the space behind. And now you've got like a free run on it because you've got 5 yards on that defender whose pace you just beat. Now, the reason why this was so impressive is, first, he knew to do that run. Second, he pulls off that run. But then after the ball is put through, this time round, it's not straightforward because he had the defender there. And, you know, even though the defender was bigger than him, he showed his strength, out-muscled him, kept the ball there, and then what a composed finish. So that was great. I think there were some hints that it may have been offside, actually. They were kind of hinting at when the ball was first played. But I think it was such a good finish. They probably like, I like that, you know, like the no VAR, but also it's like, if it was, it must have been fractional. And I always think that the game would be better if you allow the fractional ones, you know, it should only be like for these like really cast, you know, stone wall offsides that it's given. But yeah, that was impressive. I think the reason why it was impressive is because if you want to play the sort of system that Enzo wants us to play, then that's the type of goal you need to be scoring because it's about the movement, right?
Mhm.
So I know what you mean about the link-up play. I don't think it's as bad as you make it out to be. I wouldn't say it's brilliant, but I
I
felt
don't
like,
say it was bad. I just
yeah,
meant that there's room for improvement. I'm not saying
massively.
it's
Yeah,
not massive. It's not a massive. You need to get better at this. I'm like, you will get better at this, especially with your
yeah.
running the team. But again, it's not as strong as his finishing, and it's not as clean cut as this team needs at this moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll come with the run of games. I think it will
Yeah.
also come from being more familiar. So the thing is that like he won at one point or a few times he tried to lay it off to Eunice, but Eunice wasn't on the same wavelength. So there was one really good time where Eunice was running through. And at first he was making the run, expecting the ball to be put there. And then he thought, he's not going to play me through. So he checked his run. And then Cannon did play the ball anyway. And it's like they just need to practice that and have that trust in one another that Eunice needs to make that run regardless. And Cannon needs to not dwell on it and just play it first time to make the space. So, that's what I'm saying about one of these things of like, you can tell the idea. And that's, I keep saying, but Enzo's a great coach. We said that even
Mhm.
in the preseason games that you can see the clear instructions and the players get it. Then it's about executing on the plan. So yeah, he's definitely got some potential there. And he did quite a few other moments. Like there were opportunities that, maybe half chances, but it wasn't impossible that Cannon could have got a hat trick today. Well, yeah, that was another fantastic finish, right? So yeah, I mean, that would have been absolutely brilliant. And so, if you're a first start, that's got to be a weight off his mind lifted. And I do think it's interesting to see that, like, once he got his first goal, he was completely free, wasn't he?
Mhm.
You could see that he literally jumped up about 2 levels. That, like, once you've got that monkey off your back, now you've got there. And I think the fans really took to him as well. So that was good to see. So as I say, that's a very exciting prospect because it's one of those interesting ones that as we go into next season. There can't be many teams where like all four strikers have looked good at some points in time. I know that people say that Kelechi hasn't been that impressive, but he's still got like 9 goal contributions.
His
So,
his goal to minute ratio is still very good this season, considering. Let me just get top scorers. Don't think this is updated as of yet, but you see, again, 27% goal conversion, 6 goals, goals per 90, 0.54.
there you
That's
go.
not that's again. Jamie Vardy's on 0.5. Even somebody like Fatal is on 0.12. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
know it's not the same role, but Jamie Kelechi Iheanacho has got stick recently, and kind of rightfully so. But people saying sell him, these numbers speak for themselves, and that's what strikers do. They put the ball in the back of the net, and he's done it in a pretty good ratio.
I wouldn't be surprised if Kelechi goes now, as people have said, because I think this will have really impressed Maresca. So if he can stay injury free, he's going to get a run of games now, Cannon, and that's exciting because look, we knew already that he could score at this level, but I suppose the one question is that like playing for a team where there's going to be space in behind is very different. Like playing for a team that's having to battle a deep block every week, and this was a deep block, and he proved to be the difference maker. Let's not kid ourselves here. It'd be interesting to see who gets man in a match because I think that Ricardo could also easily been given it, and maybe even he should have got it. But I think you have to give it Cannon because for making your debut, you've literally, I think, been the difference between winning or drawing, and fan great from him. And yeah, like I say, just as a fan, this is exciting because we're going to be moving on to a new era now when we return to the Premier League for the next spell. I don't know if you've seen the table, you can touch on that in the end, but believe it or not, we've extended our lead again today. And
7 points
a big
clear.
reason for and that's because teams are playing so many matches. This is like the 3rd or 4th game in 10 days that everyone's picking up injuries, suspensions. And here, Leicester can take 3 of their best performing players in the month of December in Dewsbury Hall and Didi and Daka out of the team, and they can still score 4 goals. And to be honest, if you should have scored more than that. So that's great to see. And
Yeah.
I would be surprised if anyone isn't glowing about Cannon. That was great. And I can definitely say on the forum, some of the animated GIFs posted of Cannon's firing is very welcome in the world of Leicester.
I mean, you look at them again. Leeds won today against Birmingham, but they've been on a bit of a bad run of form. You've got the likes of what is it called? Southampton drew today. Ipswich 0-0 drew today.
Oh wow, West Brom lost as well. That's super
Yeah,
interesting.
didn't even see that. Yeah, West Brom lost as well. Didn't even see that one.
Bring up the
Swansea.
table.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me get this different tab open. But we are 10 points. Let me see if we can find a championship table. 10 points clear at the top at the moment. If I just get that one there, because sometimes it's hard to see on the screen. But as you can see there, again, Ipswich in second. Southampton are catching up, even though they drew today. Leeds won. So West Brom again lost. Sunderland won today. But that group is kind of solidifying itself a little bit more. So, for example, anything from potentially West Brom and then 5 points down to Cardiff, it is even the midpoint of the table. You look at this, like it goes down to 29, 28. I think there's some
That's always been the championship, though. That's why it's such a grind. Like people forget, but I just want to like cast your mind back. So, if you remember the Deeney Day season, that season, we were top of the championship in January. People forget this. And then we completely fell off, right? We started slipping. We actually fell off out of the playoffs. And going into the very last game of the season, we were out of the playoffs. But somehow we beat Forest, right? With some fluky goals as well. And we scammed our way into the playoff semi-finals, right? Which is crazy. And then we got there and then we played against Watford and then we have a penalty in the 90th minute and we all know what happens. One of the worst experiences, to be honest with you, still probably even worse than getting relegated. I would say that was a bad moment. And, you know, because we'd been out of the Premier League for 9 years. And I don't know about you, but me, that game, I was at a pub in London, which a lot of people go to see the Leicester games at. And everyone was just looking at each other like completely desolate. Like you just thought, it's not going to happen, is it? It's just we're destined to just be in the championship forever. So this season it's great that we've already started off so well. 10 points clear with just 20 games to go. You know, let's be honest, we're talking about, are we going to get the points record or not? And I would be surprised if we don't. I think the one thing that could have gone against us is if, with this AFCON losing all the players, if we'd have lost points in the fluency. But so far, it's looking like even that's good. And I think the big thing you got to say, so I'm looking at Ipswich here, their last 5 games, they've drawn 4, lost 1. So they've really fallen off. And it's understandable, though, because what's gone on? They've got injuries and suspensions. Like George Hurst, who they signed from us, has been, you know, one of their, I see mine says a bit different here, but
I think
anyway.
mine's not updated yet, but the win should be a draw at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're doing the one before that. So anyway, my point is that like every other team, they will expect that. You know, I still think this month I would still expect us to drop more points. Maybe I wouldn't say, you know, that month where we lost the 2 games back to back is still probably going to end up being our worst month, but this could be our second worst month. But it probably will be for all the teams in the division because you just get absolutely battered. I mean, there's a reason why science says you shouldn't be playing this many games at this intensity. It's going to cause problems. So, you know, that's great to see. But, you know, you couldn't ask for a better day, really. You know, new striker scores 2 goals and gets man of the match. You extend your lead. You look good. You know, I think it's still worth talking about other players in the team then. So they're the 3 that kind of came in. But for example, I thought like Hermansen, he made some great saves in this game. You know, and that was maybe a surprising thing that after 3-0, we let them back in it, even though the score was 4-1. You know, they had quite a few chances. They hit that. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Harry knows what it's all about. I agree. I think he had a great game. I'm surprised his score was so low at that 6.8. I think he was super good today. Very impressive. He won't play in the next game. You know, Stolarczyk will play. And I wouldn't be surprised if you really notice the difference between the 2 being there. Ricky P, as I say, I think he was absolutely immense. He was everywhere today. I'd love to see his touch map. But the only disappointing thing is he should have scored at least 2, maybe even 3. But Ricardo scoring a header, now I've seen it all. You know, that sums up the Enzo attacking system that you can do with the dink crosses. So he was brilliant today.
I wanted to get onto him in a second because again, I actually missed the goal because went down did a bit extra. They came back. Oh, it's 2-0 already. I should have really caught it, but at the same time, again, he was immense, and it's one of the reasons why I changed the formation. Again, he was playing a left back position, but also he was the support in the attack. And at times, I think in the first half, he was Yannick Vestergaard play a ball over to him, and he just mistimed his feet.
Oh, that's another one he could have scored. That was such a ball from Vestergaard. Like, I feel like the team's not on the same wavelength with him. We've complimented Yannick all season long for good reason. And that's another reason why I think it's inevitable that he signs on for next season and he will play in some capacity, because he's got the capability to do that. And that can unlock defenses. And again, I just feel like, the thing that's so exciting about Leicester is that we're pissing the league, but this team can still go up so many more gears. That's like, even today, I think the last time we spoke, I said to you, Southampton have beaten teams by 5, Leeds have beaten teams by 5, but Leicester haven't beaten any team by 5. Today we should have been one for the first time, and again we didn't do it. But we're making so many chances now that we could really be beating teams even more than that.
Even our XG is only 2.1 today.
Yeah, but sometimes the XG is quite a lie. Like if the goal goes in, then all of a sudden the XG is like gets added by a 3 or whatever. Like it will still show what was their XG in return. I wonder. I bet it will still show that it was like
1.07.
Okay, that's interesting. Wow, we had 74% possession today as well. 19 shots, 6 on target today. That's pretty good though. What I will say is, the very top teams, like if you look at Man City and Liverpool, when they win, they have something like 30 to 35 shots on goal. Not on goal, sorry, just shots in general. So it shows you that, we still have a little bit more, well, a lot more that we can move out from the tank there. So very good to see. I think another person that's worth talking about is Harry Winks. I personally thought he had a very strong game as well. He did have a few times where he gave the ball away loosely. But the thing that I always notice of him that is just so good is that he receives the ball. There's like 3 players around him, and yet he wins. And he comes out of it. And not only does he come out of it, but he picks a great pass and he gets us on his way. And like, as someone who plays midfield myself, I'm so jealous of that. That's such a good technique to be able to have. I keep saying this, but I remember in the past, really, I actually go as far as saying I hated Harry Winks at one point when he was playing for Spurs. I remember being on the bus here in London and someone says, "Oh, what players can you name from Spurs?" And this little kid goes, "Harry Winks." And goes, "Oh, that's an interesting one to come up with. How do you know him?" And people were like not talking about him and how did he get so many England caps? But actually, it just goes to show, do you know how like with other teams as well, how, you only really read the press. You don't see that team play every week. So you don't really know how good someone is or isn't. But like now that we got to see him every week, I can completely understand when the Spurs fans had like an affinity to him and they were a bit sad to see him go.
He just wasn't utilised in their systems when they had a counter-attack system. And the way we work, the possession base, I think he mentioned, this is the style I want to play. This is why I've come. And he's thriving. He's really thriving. I think his ability, you're right, to just get past the player, but also his defensive work is, I'm surprised at how good it is as well. Because at times,
he's fast.
Obviously, Ricardo is known. Yeah. But his physicality, he almost makes up for his lack of physicality, which is his effort and his tackling.
Yeah, what happens is he doesn't necessarily get the tackling and interception stats, but if you look at it defensively, he is amazing because we're clearly doing this thing that Barcelona did. So Pep invented this thing called the 8-second rule. Pretty straightforward. As soon as you lose the ball, you've got 8 seconds to win the ball back. If you don't win the ball back in 8 seconds, then you retreat and you get back more into the defensive shape. So you watch us. Every time the ball gets turned over, they descend upon them like, vultures going for the kill. And a lot of the time it gets the ball and it means that like, we play the possession, we lose it, but then we get it back. And then actually they're in worse shape than we are because they didn't expect to lose it so quickly. And so bizarrely, sometimes even losing the ball ourselves can end up in our favor. And if you look at him, he really epitomizes that no matter what period of the game, as soon as we lose it, he is onto it so quickly, putting his body on the line or trying to like block it. And then, what normally happens is it isn't necessarily him that gets the ball, but because 3 people crowd out that player, we end up winning the scramble and we're on our way again. So yeah, that's why I'm glad you said that. I think he had a very strong game all round because of that. Again, showing his, just how good he is for the Leicester team. And, that's the one that we've all said all season long. We've been lucky so far he hasn't got injured. I do like Hamza. I think Hamza has improved his passing a lot, but I don't think it's even unfair to him. There's not many players that are that good at playing out when they're surrounded by players. That's why Ndidi's never been picked in that position. He's clearly on day one, Enzo's looked at all his players training. He's got them to do these training rondos. I don't know if you've ever played that where you are like piggy in the middle type thing. And, you have to see it. And he's just clearly seen, he goes, okay, these are the two best players at doing that. And therefore, that's why they're playing these positions. And what my point is, sorry, kind of long point, is that we will need to get someone else there. I don't think we need him now because 10 points clear with 20 games to go, it would take a bottle job that even Spurs would be proud of to not make it now. So we're going to go up. And therefore, to get the player that we need, I feel like it will have to be someone who's, they got to be top level, I guess. I don't think this can be a player that's like an up and comer. Well, maybe, because I guess Harry Winks is still going to be the first team. But if you look at Harry Winks,
you are able to do it, but it depends on if you can sell the ambition to that player. I think you're able to get a player in who is playing regularly as a second player, but you've got to guarantee that, look, we're not just going to be competing for the bottom 10. We're going to be pushing into the top 10. I think if you sell them that way, you can get a decent person in, but they are going to be on the younger end. I think probably 24, 25, rather than just like an 18, 19-year-old.
Well, that would be okay. I think 24, 25 is the right age. My point is that Harry Winks is 28. He's got 10 England caps. He's played in Europe and he's played abroad in Europe as well. So that's like everything you could ask for what is a key position in the team. So I guess it's the same thing. It's like whoever we bring in, you know, I wonder if Sumare would be tried there if he returns. I hope not, because I think it's time to like call it and I don't think he's got the intelligence really to play that role. But someone like that, you need to get someone who's like I say, that's the prime thing they've got to be good at. They've got to be able to play their way out of trouble. You know, controversially, if Ipswich didn't go up, maybe you could try Sam Morsey there, who does a similar role for them. But would he be good enough to do it in the Premier League? Not sure. I think you need someone a bit better. I guess what I'm saying is I think you need someone who's proven that they can do that already for like at least a 10th to 15th place team somewhere in Europe. So let's cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, I just want to pick him out again and say, fantastic display, shows his importance. It's a tricky position to play. We're lucky to have him.
I think so. And I think again, without kind of trying to cover what you've said already, I agree. And it's great that we're still singing his praise after this time. And again, I just feel like he's getting better. Just slowly, incrementally, he understands that position more, even though he loves that position, and he's slowly getting better. When we go into the Premier League, I would love to see how he copes with a more aggressive central attacking midfielder. I think that's where he's going to really shine. That's where it's going to be pivotal for the team. Just Luke's already put in the chat, so big up Luke. But it was a player that I was going to mention. I think he had a really underrated game today. We mentioned Ricardo. I wanted to mention James Justin, and it's a really good one as well.
Absolutely.
Bring him up. He got subbed off, which I think was a bit unfair for Doyle, which we'll come on to in a second.
Well, that was just to rest him, wasn't it? I don't think that's been that unfair, yeah.
I guess so, but you say the same thing about Fast as well, because Fast has played pretty much every game since as well, and Yannick Vestergaard potentially. So you could think about it that way. I think with James Justin, what really impressed me today, there wasn't a lot defensively that we need to do, but the way he covered the defensive space with his last-ditch tackles was great, but also his link-up play and his ability to move into space on that right-hand side alongside Fatah and alongside Cassidy or Yunus to create that third pivot when we're high in the press. I just thought it was great. And when we lost the ball in the first half, he was always the running back, and at times he was one making the vital challenge in order to win the ball back to then pass it over to regain possession.
What can I say? I think he was great. The rankings speak for itself. Great crossing for Ricardo to score. It was everywhere. Action man, showed how good he is. And again, it's just a joke that then, like, you know, we have him and Callum Doyle and Vestergaard and Fass. We don't even, as you say, Connor Cody's quickly becoming the new Gökhan Inler. Not his fault, but it does seem that way. Harry Suter, I'm sure, would be starting. I think he'd probably end up starting for every team in the division, to be honest with you. Because I think if you look actually at the table, the really interesting thing is basically there's one team in the division that's got a good defence. And that's Leicester. Everyone else is like a big problem. Like, you know, normally Preston started the season having a good one, but not anymore. Like, yeah, look, what I mean by a good defence is someone who concedes less than one goal a game. So we've played 26 games. So any team in the division that has conceded less than 26, actually, to be fair, Leeds are the only other team. Okay, and Baggy. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh here. So there are some other good teams. I've seen Coventry have done so far as well. But look at the difference. Our one is like comfortably the best. We even conceded today, which is a bit disappointing, you could say, but we'll take it from here on out. But yeah, that's why I feel a lot of them, even our backup players, would start for them. And yeah, it's a bit of a joke. That's the parachute payments. You can talk about that another time, because to be fair, I think a lot of the normal teams in the Championship, it just again makes you see how Ipswich, how have they got there? Because look at the signings. Like Leeds could sign Joel Perreault, who is known to be one of the best strikers in the Championship. Southampton can sign Shea Charles, who is the Man City under-23s captain, and so on and so forth. And, you know, they still somehow managed. They signed George Hurst, who Leicester signed another striker because they didn't think George Hurst was good enough, and he ended up being one of their best players. So I do understand.
Championship, one of the best strikers in the Championship now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I'm with you there again. And considering how good and we've been, I think, and coming back to James Justin, one thing mentioned is that obviously Callum Doyle came back into the team. He was substituted off. Now, Yannick Vestergaard looks like he's holding that centre position. But again, if there is an injury, then you've got Connor Cody to come into that at the back three as well. For not the game against Millwall, the game afterwards, I don't know who we're playing after that. Who are we playing after Millwall? We are playing Coventry. Would you then put Callum Doyle back in the team, or who would you drop? Because Foster's been impressive, James Justin's been incredibly impressive, and Callum Doyle is probably his preferred left back.
For me, I rate Coventry a lot, even though their results haven't been that good. And it's not a surprise that they've started to have an uptick in form. They beat Middlesbrough today, for example. So I personally think you've got to go as full. It's away that game as well. And of course, it's a bit of a derby. So I would go as close to full strength there as possible. So it depends who he sees as being better out of the two of Callum Doyle and James Justin. But I feel like I feel of those two that Justin is better defensively. I know that they've made a change recently where they moved one of their strikers, Hadji Wright, out to the wing, and he started scoring from there. So I think they've got some decent players on the wing. Are they fast? I don't know. If they are, then maybe we should go with him instead. Yeah, I agree with what Luke said. I got a feeling Doyle will start the next match because JJ's played a lot of games in quick succession.
It's an FA Cup, so it's 10. I'm expecting 10 changes, just like we did against the Carabao Cup against Liverpool. But again, we would see that, and I think there's a really good point. Again, shout out to it looks like I think there's Chris in the chat. Third gear win. I think that's pretty much, again, we are going up a level, but again, we choose when we're going to them, especially with the games and how lack of rotation we've been. And the performance we've had, I think it's been phenomenal. And also, when we've done this before, we've got injuries out the backside. This has been completely different as well. And there was another couple of bits that you were mentioning as well. Let me come to this as well. Oh, Ant's here. Hey, mate. Can you hear us? How do you think the game went? Okay, so, and well, you better make. I'll try and bring you back in.
Speechless. That's how impressed he was. Has he been at the game today?
Speechless. Let's get it as well. So, try to give a game of the final 10 minutes. We didn't switch off. Yeah, it was a good point. What's it called? Suit on international duty. Yeah, it was a good point there as well. There was a couple of other points. God, there was so many good comments I wanted to get through as well. So again, I think people are agreeing where Doyle will probably be on the bench considered for the Championship. Now we're going back into the team. I think that was. Is there any? I'm trying to think of any particular person I was going to mention in particular. Tom Cannon, Mavididi, I think started the game a little bit slow, but built into the game really well towards the end as well. So I think it's worth mentioning about him.
Yeah, I found this goal absolutely hilarious, like Championship classic, that sort of goal. But yeah, he's good. Always good to see him score as well. I think he's yeah, I think he was very solid, did what he needed to do and got us there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because at that point in the game, it was a bit weird that bizarrely, even though it was 3-1, it was starting to get a bit end to end and frenetic. So the 4-1, like Matt Elliott said it on commentary where I was listening to, that has killed the game off properly now. I would agree with that. Yeah,
and I think the way he took the goal, again, it was a precise free kick. It was an accurate free kick, but I still don't know how it went in, because the wall should have been set up better. There should have been more people in the wall, and the goalkeeper shouldn't be beaten at his near post. But I think you said
It's
as
just
well before in the group chat, it was like sums up the championship, that goal in itself.
yeah, that's my point. You won't see that scored in it. Well, I suppose you could do, but it's a clanger really. But if you don't buy a ticket, you can't win the lottery. Fair play to Steffi, he's done it, and he is again. He's right up there for goal contributions in the team. And as we said, I mean, I've been really impressed with him because if you compare him to the first game of the season to now, he's made a big jump. It's really quite impressive. He's now one of the main men for Leicester. And I'll be excited to see what he can do in the Premier League. I think he is going to be a good asset in that league now.
We were worried about that, and I think Enzo saw something that we didn't. And I think I think we both kind of knew that he would come to this level, but we just didn't see it. In terms of Enzo saw something that we didn't. I think that's the best way to see it. And he said you can double what he's currently doing, and he did. And he's in the second half, especially. I think the first half in general, it's not worth talking too much about because there was just so much mediocrity. The team was a little bit tired, lethargic. I think sometimes it's almost done on purpose, just to kind of like, right, slow the team down, then right, second half, we're going to go for it.
I really believe that is deliberate, actually, because we have seen that pattern time and time and time again. And I've said that's where I think we as fans need to understand that like in the first half, if it feels like we did nothing and we were just knocking it sideways, but we had all of our men in their half, it's legitimate. There is literally what we're doing is you got to tire them out. It's like in boxing, how often do you see the knockout in the first 2 rounds? You do see it sometimes, but most of the time you don't, right? Look, you have to wear them down and wear them down.
Just looking at James Justin, who is, bearing in mind, a third centre-back. He is playing on this position so high up the pitch. And anytime he dropped back, again, I want to get up. And Ricardo was a similar one. Let me get into Ricardo's because, bearing in mind, he was playing, quote-unquote, left-back, but he was playing as a right mid the entire time. Similar position here. He was taking up that spot on the right-hand side. If we get up the average formation, I struggle sometimes with the average formations because we play 2 separate formations. Nobody stays in one particular spot, but I'll try and get that up in the meantime. But you see what I mean, where these players, they play so high but we control the game so well. Where's that? Yeah, I mean, the average formation kind of shows that actually a little bit more. I know before it's looked a little bit off, but again, attacking wise, everybody, again, you've got basically a 1 at the back. James Justin is so high in his own. There's 1 player, 2 players potentially in their own half. The rest are attacking.
That is hilarious. That does actually look like a kind of 1-6-2 formation or something, a 1-7-2 formation.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. I mean, look, I keep saying this, but at the start of the season, I was so excited when we got Enzo. And the reason why is, as it's proven to be, is that at Man City, they know how to beat a low block. In fact, if they win the Premier League again this season, Arsenal, their last 2 games, they've not done very well. And one of my best mates is an Arsenal fan, so I've watched those games on TV with him. And that's where they've been struggling. They've been struggling against the deep block teams who just, that's how you play them. Chelsea struggle against the deep block. Leeds, if you speak to their fans, the teams that they're dropping points to are the teams that play a low block. It's not a surprise they beat Birmingham today, because what did Birmingham do to us? They dared have a go, which is suicidal to do against the teams who got.
When we beat them 4-2.
Yeah, but they've improved since then, luckily. Yeah, exactly. We hit them with a smash and grab. Even Brendan Rodgers said he felt dirty on the day, but it's like, well, you got to do what's got to be done in order to get by. So I totally understand that. So, yeah, and so what he's proven to do is that, look how many people he puts forward. As you say, look at the positions that, JJ's playing technically as a centre back, but he's putting in a cross to Ricardo, who's supposed to be one of the CDMs or left backs, getting onto it. Everyone's attacking, is very methodical. That's why, even though there might be some games where we don't do it, we've proven to be the best team at beating low blocks. And that's why, look again today, that's why Ipswich haven't gotten through, Southampton haven't got through. Okay, Leeds have won, but like I say, they opened up, and that's what's going to get us there. I would say the interesting thing is that next season we will not be playing too many low blocks. No. But funnily enough, we've shown that we can play counter-attack as well. So I think, it's going to be, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it could be quite an interesting season next year. It'll be interesting to see how, because my personal opinion is I think this team, as it is, with no additions, would still finish top 12, top 14 in the Premier League.
And
Admittedly, next year the Premier League will be harder because I feel the teams going up are going to be better than 3 of the teams that are coming down. But
yeah,
we'll see when that is. And so, yeah, just want to give his praises, but just point out that his understanding of how to beat a low block, I think, is the unique thing as to why we're so good in this division. Because
yeah,
probably at least 3/4 of the games that we play are against teams that sit low, and yet we rarely have problems with them.
yeah. And we play again. It's something that I've known just playing this, watching Leicester City as well. We place. Even though we have one formation, Enzo talks about one formation, there's so many different ways we've seen, as you mentioned, the counterattacks. We can play against anybody by just changing up a few little bits. Sometimes the second half, right, we're going to push Ricardo into midfield. We're going to decide to play the wing, the centre backs really high up the pitch. Yet Yannick Vestergaard in this game was pressing really quite high up where Harry Winks was going forward. I was surprised by his things in terms of that as well.
Yannick had
And
a
some
good
of
game today, I think, by the way.
yeah, I think Harry. I mean, we're not even mentioning him, but I thought Yannick Vestergaard, I think, did really well at times. I think he looked like he was playing in third gear. He's like, yep, controlled it, know what I'm doing. Spinning the balls out. His long balls are really good. Actually, for Tom Cannon's second goal, it starts with the Yannick Vestergaard. It then goes and that pass again. The finish we've talked about the finish, but the 1-2 that Eunice and Winks did over the top towards Cannon, like he knew where he was. I just felt like that was developing as well. And if we can do that more, my God, we're going to really get the best out of Cannon. My only disadvantage potentially is that he didn't get a hat trick because if Mark Albrighton keeps playing on the right wing, I think Cannon's getting a load more goals.
Well, it could come in time. He's a very young striker, and look, we've signed him on a contract. He's likely going to be the future of this club. I mean, it's quite an interesting and I guess scary thing to think about. But yeah, next season, I mean, I still stand by the fact that I don't see Jamie Vardy playing in the Premier League next year. I think for his own good, maybe that might be, he's probably better off going to America or something like that. Just because, like, look what happened when we got relegated. Like, don't take the risk, go out a legend. You've helped us get back to the top again. And so therefore, currently, it looks like the front two will be Patson Daka and Tom Cannon, right? So that's a big turn up for the books. That's very unusual.
Yep, and nobody would have expected that again, as you said that at the beginning of the season. Just want to get in some of the comments because they're really good bits as well. Some good one again. One about again, Finn's put in about do we need Carvalho? I think if you're thinking in terms of where he's going to play, he's probably going to play in the attacking mid on the right hand or the left hand side. That's where we're probably going to utilize him. It won't be on the wings. I think for Liverpool, where they play the 4-3-3, you played in the Salah and the not Mane, but who
they do both. That's what's interesting is they like Harvey Elliott is another one that's played as both a number 8 and on the wings, so it's quite flexible. I think that's a good question. Like, do we really need him? We probably don't, but I actually really like that we're going for him because I think right now, statistically, the chances of us getting promoted are something like 99%. And I feel that like signing that player makes it 100% because he was one of the best performing players in this division. Hey, you can't do worse than that. So I think bringing him in, he might even be one of those players that plays like 4 substitute appearances only between now and the end of the season. But it ensures you, and it's been said that like if we don't get him, Southampton are in for him. So there is something to be said of like deny one of your rivals getting one of the best players that are possible for this division.
Yeah, no, I hear what you mean, and we just talk about Carvalho at the moment. I mean, I think you've been. I think we've been talking about that you've been hearing this rumor for a while. Do you think he'll do really well for us if he does come?
If he does come, yeah, and just add to what you said there, I don't think it's just about buying for now. I think it's also buying for next season. If we go up.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. Your microphone is, I've heard most of it, but the microphone is terrible at the moment. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it is an investment for the future, just like for Tao is, just for a couple of other people as well. In the meantime. But I think the next thing to talk about is potentially, obviously, we've got a game coming up against Millwall in the meantime. So in terms of that, who do you think, Anu, who in terms of substitution, I'll bring up some of the substitutions that were there at the moment. Let me bring up that one. In terms of the team that some of the players, because I did tweet this out. I've mentioned that we've got Cody, we've got Doyle, and we've got the rest of them are just so we've got Cody and we've got Doyle. The rest of them, sorry, I'm going to mute you because I can hear background noise. It are basically just the academy player and Albright and the rest of them academy players.
I would start all of those subs, to be honest. All of those subs, keep Cannon, Eunice, and Cassidy. Is that 11? If not, we must be close to it. Have that as the starting lineup. I think it should be, not only free hit, but let the players have, I remember when we beat Watford a few years ago, and we had Will Alves even played and came off the bench and stuff like that. I think use it just as a complete free hit. Let them see what they can do. Who cares really about it? Like if somehow we end up getting to the quarterfinals or something like that, we can take it a bit more seriously later in the season. I think for now, it's important that academy graduates get the opportunity to stake a claim. And I think maybe we'll lose some fluency, but that's okay. But I would keep the 3 that kind of came into the team today, just so that they can build it up, and maybe look to withdraw all 3 of them on about 60 minutes. As you said, we only have 1 fit striker. Vardy might not be back, so I guess Cannon's got to run himself into the ground. Fair enough. Maybe someone else. So we have tried false 9. I could see Eunice being played as a false 9 actually. Dennis Pratt, if he's back in, has been. Yeah, I'm not saying it would be good. But could I see us trying it? Yeah, I could see us trying it.
Like Adam Luckman. I think he would need somebody to support him alongside him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, if it's just a cup game, it could be one of those that at the end of the game, you just say it's a failed experiment. I don't think he'll start there. I'm just saying in the last 30 minutes, I could see us trying something like that. Just if you want to rest it, depending on who we've got. Because, at the end of the day, like I said, it's a free hit. But what we don't want to do... Because do you know the one thing I've got to say, which is kind of unusual, is that we have been lucky with injuries of recent.
Yeah.
That over that Christmas period, not one person... Well, to be fair, Vardy got injured. But otherwise, we haven't really had, Winks getting injured, Ricardo getting injured, Vestergaard getting injured. I can't see them going through the whole season with that being the case. At some point, someone's going to get it, even if it's only out for 2 weeks. So when that happens, are we going to be ready? I don't know. We have to be ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, another one. Again, potentially if Carvalho does come in, potentially could play a false 9 in that position as well. Again, it's a good option. But also, I think there's a good point from Scott as well. So thanks for your comments, Scott. Was it that one? That one. Would you play Albright in the place of Winks? That wasn't the comment I was going to bring up, but I just thought you'd get your thoughts on that. I know.
I don't think he's not good. He has his head down a lot of the time, Albright, and you need one of those heads up players
rather than trying to get past players.
Yeah, I will say, I remember in one press conference, Enzo said something very interesting where he said Hamza is going to play that, but we are trying different solutions. So what that means is that there's other people too. And I don't know if you remember in pre-season, but James Justin was tried in that position and Casey McAteer was tried in that position as well. You've mentioned that you felt Callum Doyle would be moved up to there if we signed Taylor Harwood-Bellis. So who knows? I feel like, there may be... I'd be surprised, put it this way, if there isn't one other player who has tried there at least this season. Whether or not they'll do a good job or not, I don't know. But I think we could do something. But the skill set you need to be really good. And I actually think Eunice could maybe do it, or Dennis Pratt perhaps. But
Dennis
maybe
Pratt has got
these guys attacking in.
Eunice, I've not really seen that at the moment.
Well, I'm not sure he'd have on the defensive side, like for losing it. Like we said, that Harry Winks will throw himself at the ball to really stop it going there. That's where I think Eunice would be a bit weak. But I mean, let's not judge people on hypotheticals. We'd have to see it, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. And then just a couple of other ones as well. Just another one. I think this is a really good opportunity. Kind of Scott was mentioning as well for the sub players, because we are playing at 12:30. There'll be people watching the game. I think there's only one 12:30 kickoff for the FA Cup, so it is the one on television, Leicester Millwall.
Really? Okay.
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but normally they have one 12:30 kickoff. The majority of them are at 3:00. So that one's chosen, I think, for television. In terms of that, I think this is a good opportunity for somebody like Marcel, who signed a new contract, him to get himself in the shop window, just in the same way that this time last year when we played, not this time last year, a few years ago, Dennis Pratt came into the team and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall got his loan out to Blackpool, I believe, a couple of years ago before the pandemic. We did a similar thing there as well. Are there 3 other games
Yeah.
at 12:30? Never mind, I got that completely wrong. But
we could still be on TV. It's still possible.
Yeah. So that's where again we are at the moment. So apart from that, we're in a good position. I think overall, I think Dennis Pratt. We'll have to see again. I'll try and bring up Enzo's comments, but we'll have to see what happens for Dennis Pratt. I've got a feeling that again we've seen a lot of sniffing rounds of Royal Antwerp. I feel like he just get me somewhere where I'm going to play first team football on a regular basis, even if that's back in because the Italian clubs are really messing him about at the moment. But if that's the case, we are looking at probably moving him on and getting another player in his position, which is no surprise where you're seeing Carvalho being linked, where you're seeing that another Ghanaian player linked as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Good to do it. I mean, as I say, I saw someone did some analysis and it just said, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it. But Leicester fans, prepare for life back in the Premier League. That's what it said. And they've done statistical analysis through the supercomputer. And the supercomputer had something like 96.2% of being first, 2.8% of being second, and something like 0.1% of being third. And I bet after today, that's been generous because we've just picked up points again. So for that reason, we have said it a few times, but it could be worth thinking about bringing someone in who could appear for us in the top level. Lucas Beraldo in the end has signed for PSG. So people might laugh and say, well, we were never able to get him. But you've got to appreciate the kind of balls that we've even clearly made an offer because he was clearly on the market. And, what I will say is the Premier League still can offer wages that are ridiculous. And that's why you can pick up these players from other clubs. So it'll be interesting to see. It wouldn't surprise me if we do end up with someone like that. Like the Carvalho one is interesting just because that is a very high profile signing. They have said, though, Liverpool, that they are not looking to get rid of him on a permanent. So it would only be a loan. I personally think that's still, that's not the worst because at the end of the day, like I said, it's just insurance. You're just thinking okay, we're in this weird position now where it's so inevitable. We can't really mess up. So why don't we just sign one player, even if it's a 2 million on just for the loan fee? Because in the worst case scenario, we've still got one X factor player who, if he scores one goal and that one goal gets us 1 point or 3 points and that gets us the title, it's still worth it, right, in the long run. So I could understand it for that reason.
Considering that position as well, where you've got FFP is still an issue, and B, in that today in the first half, we lacked that creativity from the midfield. Carvalho would give us that 100%. Keenan Dewsbury Hall's give you the legs. It'll be interesting who he pairs up with because I think Carvalho is left-footed, but with Enzo, he will play people left or right. He will change them around anyway. But just before we kind of finish up as well, let's get on to again. Enzo's got his comments up. First one again, four games in 10 days. 4 games in 10 days. We can't expect anything more than what we've done. This is the moment we are winning games. We are hopefully happy to continue. It's kind of
said.
Well said. Well said. But it's kind of as you would expect from kind of Enzo as well. Next to put, because he tends to say this at times. He said it about Rotherham. He said it about this is our most important game, and I felt like he said something similar for the Huddersfield game. That it was a really, really important game, and we must win these games. When in reality, it was Ipswich that was, in my opinion, more important. Again, important game. Same time, we could do something better in the build-up. I think in this, he's referring specifically to the first half.
Yeah, because we were lucky to be ahead in that first half. Admittedly, 0-0 was probably the right result. But yeah, very good that. I would agree with what he said there. It's good to see.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to share, Anil? Because that's pretty much everything I have for this game. Because there's loads to talk about again, and these games have been relentless. But I'm surprised on how many less players been injured. B, how well we've come through it, and C, how again, as we mentioned, we're not even touching a top gear for where we're going.
Well, Championship's a grind, so we've still done very well. I think, I would just say, have a happy new year, everyone. The team's done us well. We should be in good spirits. HMS Pistol League is back. I think we can just enjoy a nice game next time round. There's not really much pressure on it. And let's have some fun.
Yep, exactly that. Can't anything better than that. Anil, again, thank you so much for joining. Again, we'll be back for the Millwall game, hopefully. Again, if we can get something for that. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you all in the next video. So